The stars twinkled like scattered diamonds across the vast, dark canvas of space. On the bustling space station that served as the Galactic Federation's headquarters, leaders from various planets gathered in a large circular hall. The atmosphere was thick with tension and anticipation. General Xylon, with his sharp eyes and commanding presence, stood at the front. His skin shimmered with a metallic glow, a trait of his species from the planet Zephyria. Today, he was not just the leader of his people but the chairperson of this urgent meeting. The rogue group known as the Marauders has struck again, General Xylon announced, his voice echoing around the room. His statement caused a murmur among the gathered crowd. The Marauders were a lawless band of aliens who had been attacking peaceful planets, and now they were threatening the very core of the Galactic Federation. We must act swiftly to protect our citizens and our interests. Kylon continued, displaying a map of recent attacks. The holographic stars and lines formed a pattern that showed the Marauders' movements. Our best ships, armed with the latest technology, will intercept and engage the enemy. In the back of the room, Commander Sarah Jensen, a human military strategist, shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She was a newcomer to such high-level meetings, her uniform less adorned than those of her alien counterparts. Humans were the newest members of the Galactic Federation, and many still viewed them as primitive due to their reliance on older technology. Sarah raised her hand, and after a nod from General Kylon, she stood up. "If I may, General," she began, her voice steady. "While our technology might not be as advanced, I believe our tactics in guerrilla warfare could be beneficial in dealing with the Marauders." General Xylon raised an eyebrow, a sign of skepticism among his people. "Commander Jensen, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is a matter of sophisticated weaponry and shields. What do the low-tech humans know of war in space?" Despite the dismissive tone, Sarah continued, "With all due respect, General, our methods could complement the high-tech strategies. It's not just about firepower. It's about unpredictability and using the environment to our advantage." The room fell silent. Many of the delegates looked from Sarah to General Kylon, curious about his response. "Thank you, Commander." Kylon replied coolly, "We will consider all options." His tone suggested the discussion was over, and Sarah sat down, feeling the eyes of the room on her. As the meeting adjourned, the delegates filed out, talking among themselves. Sarah's suggestion had sparked interest among some, but doubt among others. She knew she had to prove the worth of human ingenuity in a galaxy that prized technology above all. Days later, the Federation's fleet, a collection of sleek warships armed with gleaming energy cannons and protective shields, positioned itself near a strategic pass where the Marauders were expected to appear. General Kylon watched from the command center, confident in his technology. Suddenly, the alarm blared. The Marauders had not only arrived, but had launched a surprise attack from an unexpected angle. The Federation's ships scrambled to respond, but the Marauders' agility and ferocious firepower caused chaos. On board her own ship, Sarah watched the battle unfold. She had prepared for this moment, despite the Federation's reliance on technology. Her ship was smaller, and her crew was equipped with older, projectile-based weapons, but they were also equipped with something no sensor could detect: courage and a plan. Sarah's voice cut through the tension on her ship. "Prepare for close engagement. Follow the plan we discussed. It's our turn to show what we can do." As the Federation's ships struggled to regroup, Sarah's ship darted toward an asteroid field. Her crew maneuvered with precision, using the asteroids as cover. They launched a series of hit-and-run attacks on the Marauders' flanks, disrupting their formation. General Xylon watched in disbelief as the human ship made quick, effective strikes. It was unconventional, risky, and successful. The Marauders, confused and frustrated, began to make mistakes. Back at the Federation's command ship, General Kylon's aide approached him. "Sir, Commander Jensen's tactics are working. Should we support her?" Kylon hesitated, his pride battling with the reality before him. Finally, he nodded. Signal the fleet. Adjust to support the human strategy. Let's use their plan to our advantage. As the Federation's ships began to coordinate with Sarah's guerrilla tactics, the tide of the battle shifted. The Marauders found themselves outmaneuvered and began to retreat. In the aftermath of the battle, as the Federation assessed the damage and the victory, General Exilon had to admit that the humans had something valuable to offer. Maybe their technology wasn't the most advanced, but their ideas about war were fresh and effective. Sarah's success had begun to change the minds of many in the Galactic Federation. It was clear now that even a so-called low-tech approach could win wars, and perhaps it was time to listen more to the humans who had turned their perceived weakness into their greatest strength. In the vast reaches of space, the Galactic Federation's fleet regrouped, their ships sporting scars from the recent battle. General Exilon, still struggling with the reality of their near defeat, stood in the command center, his face a mask of contemplation. The victory had been theirs, but it was not the clean, decisive win he had envisioned. Instead, it was messy, chaotic, and thanks to a human. Commander Sarah Jensen, now recognized as the unlikely hero of the last skirmish, was called to the main deck. Her steps were firm, her face set in determination. The crew watched her, their eyes reflecting newfound respect and a hint of curiosity. How had this human, with her primitive tools and old-school tactics, managed to outsmart the technologically superior Marauders? Commander Jensen, General Exilon began, his voice neutral but his eyes sharp. Your actions in the asteroid field were effective. I am considering a new strategy against the Marauders, incorporating your guerrilla tactics. Sarah nodded, her expression serious. Thank you, General. I believe that blending our approaches could give us the upper hand. I have ideas for our next encounters. The General gestured for her to continue, his usual pride softened by the recent events. We need to be unpredictable, use the environment, and keep the Marauders guessing. Sarah explained. I suggest smaller, mobile units that can hit quickly and retreat before they can react. We'll need volunteers, skilled pilots, and soldiers who can adapt to this style of combat. General Exilon considered her words. Very well, Commander. Assemble your team. You will lead this operation. Sarah saluted sharply, a glint of excitement in her eyes. She turned to leave, then paused. General, one more thing. We'll need to train together, humans, and your forces, to blend our strengths. Agreed, the General replied, seeing the wisdom in her suggestion. Over the next few days, Sarah's presence on the training deck was constant. She worked alongside alien soldiers, teaching them human tactics of cover, move, and camouflage. They practiced in simulated environments, from asteroid fields to nebulous gas clouds, scenarios where traditional warfare would falter. Meanwhile, intelligence reports indicated that the Marauders were regrouping for a major assault on a strategic outpost known as the Helix Nebula Station, a critical point for Federation communications. It was clear that this would be the proving ground for Sarah's strategies. The day of the assault arrived sooner than expected. Sarah's team, a mix of human soldiers and alien volunteers, was deployed in advance, hiding among the debris and cosmic dust near the Helix Nebula. Their ships were small, fast, and hard to detect against the backdrop of space's deep colors. General Exilon, aboard the Federation's flagship, watched the live feed from Sarah's helmet camera. His hands clasped behind his back, his body tense with anticipation. The Marauders arrived in force, their ships sleek and menacing. They began bombarding the station, confident in their superiority. That's when Sarah gave the signal. Like specters, her team emerged from hiding. They darted through the chaos, their movements coordinated and precise. Using grappling hooks and magnetic pulses, they boarded Marauder ships, taking the fight directly to the enemy. The Marauders, unprepared for such aggressive boarding actions, scrambled to respond. In the confusion, Sarah and her team planted explosives, sabotaged systems, and engaged in close-quarters combat. The Federation's main fleet, following Sarah's plan, used this time to strike, their firepower focused and overwhelming. General Exilon watched as one by one, the Marauder ships began to falter. Explosions tore through their hulls, and their formations broke. The sight of his fleet working in perfect sync with the humans' unconventional tactics filled him with a grudging respect. As the battle drew to a close, the Federation's forces had taken minimal losses, a stark contrast to their previous encounters. The Helix Nebula station was secure, and the Marauders were in retreat. Back on the flagship, General Exilon awaited Sarah's return. When she stepped onto the deck, her armor scuffed and her face smeared with grime. The crew erupted in cheers. She had not only saved the station, but had also turned the tide of their war strategy. General Exilon approached her, his expression solemn. "Commander Jensen, your leadership today has shown us all the value of your methods. The Federation owes you a great debt." Sarah, tired but satisfied, simply nodded. "We're stronger together, General. Our diversity, both in species and in tactics, makes us unpredictable. And in war, unpredictability can be our greatest weapon." The general smiled, a rare occurrence that surprised those around him. "Indeed, Commander. Let's continue to learn from each other. The war is far from over, but today we have won a significant battle." As the crew gathered around Sarah, sharing stories and congratulations, it was clear that the humans' way of war, once doubted, was now a key part of their strategy. In the vastness of space, amidst the backdrop of 1,000 stars, a new chapter of cooperation had begun, spearheaded by a human who taught them all a valuable lesson. In war, brains could triumph over brute strength. The space around the Helix Nebula was quiet after the recent victory. The stars shone like tiny pinpricks of light against the deep black of the cosmos. The Federation's ships, now mixed with human-designed craft, hovered silently, the tension of the upcoming battles simmering just below the surface. Commander Sarah Jensen stood on the bridge of her ship, the Resilience. Her eyes were fixed on the holographic map displaying their next target, a critical supply route for the Marauders. It was the perfect spot for an ambush, and she knew it. "Here's the plan," Sarah said to her assembled team, a group of humans and aliens who had quickly learned to respect her tactical genius. "We'll use the asteroid belt to hide our approach. Once we're in position, we'll cut off their supply ships one by one. Stealth and speed are our friends here." Her team nodded, understanding the risks and the necessity of their mission. The Federation had never before attempted such a direct strike on the enemy's lifeline. It was bold, it was risky, and it was entirely Sarah's idea. As they approached the asteroid belt, the Resilience and its companion ships powered down their main engines to glide silently through space. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the life support systems and the soft murmur of the crew at their stations. Suddenly, a large Marauder transport appeared on their scanners, lumbering through space, laden with supplies. It was escorted by 2 sleek fighters, unaware of the danger hiding just beyond their sensors. Sarah's voice was calm and steady. "Engage stealth mode. Prepare to strike." Her ship, along with 2 others, drifted closer, using the massive rocks as cover. With practiced precision, they launched a volley of grappling hooks, latching onto the unsuspecting transport. The surprise was complete, and before the escort fighters could react, they were swarmed by Federation drones, spewing out nets and electromagnetic pulses. The transport's crew was in disarray as Sarah and her team boarded. The fight was swift. Sarah's team used their knowledge of close-quarter battles to overpower the enemy. Within minutes, the transport was under their control. "Secure the ship. Check for any intel we can use," Sarah ordered as she surveyed the cargo bay, filled with ammunition and medical supplies. Valuable resources for the Federation. Meanwhile, the Federation's main fleet, inspired by Sarah's success, moved to block any attempts by the Marauders to retake the transport. They deployed additional ships to form a barricade, making each ship interlock with the other, creating a formidable barrier. Back on the captured transport, Sarah's second-in-command, Lieutenant Harrow, A tall, blue-skinned alien from Cygnus approached her with a datapad. "Commander, we found these encrypted files. They might contain their upcoming operational plans." Sarah took the pad, her mind already racing with possibilities. "Good work, Hero. Let's get this back to the fleet for decryption." As they returned to the Resilience, the news of their victory spread through the fleet. Cheers erupted from the crews. The successful ambush had not only secured vital supplies, but had also provided a much-needed morale boost. General Xylon, watching the events unfold from his flagship, couldn't help but feel a grudging admiration for the human commander. Her strategies, once doubted because of their simplicity, were proving to be devastatingly effective. "Prepare a communication link to Commander Jensen," he instructed his aide. "General." Sarah appeared on the screen, her face smeared with grease and a small cut on her forehead, but her eyes were alive with victory. "Commander, your actions today have once again proven invaluable. We will analyze the data you captured immediately," Xylon said, his voice respectful. Sarah nodded, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Thank you, General. I hope this helps us move one step closer to ending this conflict." "I believe it will," Xylon replied. "Rest now, Commander. We plan our next move at dawn." As the transmission ended, Sarah turned to look out at the stars. The weight of command was heavy on her shoulders, but the trust her team placed in her, and the results they had achieved, lightened the burden. She knew the war was far from over, but each victory brought them closer to peace. In the silent vastness of space, the Federation's fleet, now more united than ever, prepared for the challenges ahead. Under Sarah's leadership, they had become a force to be reckoned with, blending old-school human ingenuity with the advanced technologies of the Federation. Together, they were rewriting the rules of interstellar warfare, one battle at a time. The darkness of space was vast and cold, a backdrop to the silent dance of warships and asteroids. The Federation's fleet, buoyed by recent victories, was now poised for what could be the turning point in their ongoing conflict with the Marauders. Commander Sarah Jensen, standing in the command center of the Resilience, was once again at the heart of the strategy. General Xylon's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Commander Jensen, we have identified a Marauder stronghold in the sector of Zeta Prime. It is heavily fortified, and will be our most challenging target yet." Sarah nodded, her mind already racing through possible approaches. "Understood, General. I'll start planning the assault." The stronghold was located on a small moon, surrounded by a dense asteroid field. A natural fortress, it housed a Marauder command center, responsible for coordinating attacks across several systems. Taking it down would disrupt their operations significantly. Sarah gathered her team for a briefing. "This won't be easy," she began, her gaze sweeping over the faces of her crew. "The stronghold is well protected by both natural and technological defenses. We'll need to be creative and precise." Her plan was audacious. It involved a series of feints and diversions to draw the Marauders' forces out of position, allowing a smaller team to infiltrate the stronghold and sabotage it from within. The risks were high, but the potential rewards were higher. As the fleet maneuvered into position, the first phase of Sarah's plan went into action. Federation ships, led by the Resilience, launched a barrage of fire towards the outskirts of the asteroid field, simulating a full frontal assault. The Marauders responded as expected, dispatching a large contingent of their ships to counter the attack. With the enemy distracted, Sarah led the infiltration team in a sleek, stealth-modified shuttle. They slipped quietly through the asteroid field, using the large rocks for cover. Every member of the team was acutely aware that the slightest mistake could lead to disaster. Meanwhile, the main Federation fleet continued their feigned assault, drawing more Marauder ships out of the stronghold. Explosions lit up the dark space as both sides exchanged heavy fire. The diversion was working, but they couldn't hold it indefinitely. Inside the shuttle, tension was palpable. Sarah and her team reached the moon's surface undetected and disembarked swiftly. They moved in a tight formation, their footsteps silent on the cold, rocky ground. The entry point to the stronghold was a small, unguarded service hatch that Sarah's intelligence had discovered. It was a tight fit, but one by one, they slipped inside the enemy's lair. The interior of the stronghold was a labyrinth of corridors and control rooms. Sarah's team used handheld scanners to navigate towards the main control room. Every corner they turned could bring them face to face with Marauder soldiers. Back in space, the Federation's feint was becoming increasingly costly. Ships were taking damage, and General Exilon knew they couldn't keep up the pretense much longer. "Hold positions as long as you can," he ordered his captains. "We must give Commander Jensen the time she needs." Deep within the stronghold, Sarah's team reached the control room. A small group of Marauder technicians was caught by surprise and quickly subdued. Sarah's team set to work planting explosives and downloading critical data from the Marauder computers. "We have what we need," Sarah whispered into her communicator. "Setting charges now. Prepare for extraction." The explosives were set with timers, giving them just enough time to escape. As they retraced their steps, the first signs of discovery were echoing through the stronghold's halls. Alarms began to blare, and Marauder soldiers started to converge on their location. It was a race against time. Sarah's team sprinted towards the service hatch, their path now blocked by arriving Marauder forces. They fought their way through, a desperate battle of gunfire and close combat. Just as they reached the surface, the stronghold behind them erupted in a massive explosion. The ground shook, and the sky lit up with fire. Sarah's team dove into the shuttle, powering it up for a rapid ascent. In orbit, as soon as General Exilon saw the explosion, he ordered all ships to converge for cover fire. "Extract them now," he barked. The shuttle burst from the moon's atmosphere just as Federation ships swooped in, blasters firing at any Marauder ship that dared to follow. The shuttle docked safely aboard the Resilience, and Sarah's team was met with cheers and relief. Sarah, her uniform torn and face smeared with soot, met General Xilon's gaze on the screen. "Mission accomplished, General. The stronghold is destroyed." General Xilon, his face showing rare emotion, nodded. "Well done, Commander. Rest now. We will plan our next move tomorrow." As Sarah left the command center, her crew clapping her on the back, she knew the war was far from over. But tonight, they had struck a blow that would change the course of the conflict. The Federation was learning, adapting, and overcoming, and it was all thanks to a blend of high-tech might and low-tech cunning. After the destruction of the Marauder stronghold, the Galactic Federation's morale soared to new heights. The victory had proven that Sarah Jensen's blend of human ingenuity and alien technology was a formidable force. The Federation's fleets, once scattered and reactive, were now unified and strategic. In the command center of the Resilience, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The final battle was looming, a confrontation that would decide the fate of the galaxy. The Marauders, severely weakened but still dangerous, had gathered their remaining forces for a last stand. Sarah stood beside General Exilon, reviewing the holographic map. "They're cornered, but desperate enemies are dangerous," she remarked, her eyes scanning the Marauder positions. "Yes, but we have them outmatched," General Exilon replied, confidence evident in his voice. "Your tactics have given us the upper hand. We'll strike with everything we've got." The plan was simple yet bold. The Federation would engage the Marauders in a multi-front battle, using decoys and diversionary tactics to disperse their forces, while the main fleet delivered a crushing blow. Sarah's team would spearhead a crucial part of the attack, aiming to capture the Marauder leader and effectively end their command structure. As the fleets prepared, Sarah gathered her diverse team of humans and aliens. "This is it," she said, her voice steady and inspiring. "Today we end this war. Remember, we're not just fighting for our homes, but for the future of the galaxy." Cheers filled the briefing room, a sound of unity that crossed species and worlds. The battle began at dawn, stars still twinkling in the vast, dark sky. Federation ships advanced in formation, their weapons charging. As they approached the marauder lines, decoy units broke off, drawing fire and creating openings. Sarah's ship, the Resilience, darted through the chaos, its path calculated to bring them directly to the marauder command ship. The ship shook as it dodged enemy fire, the crew focused and precise in their duties. Around them, the battle raged. Lasers crisscrossed the void, and explosions brightened the dark like deadly fireworks. Federation ships, using tactics Sarah had pioneered, maneuvered with a grace that belied their destructive purpose. On the Resilience, Sarah watched the progress of the battle from the command deck. "Now," she said, signaling her pilot to make the final approach. With a skilled maneuver, the Resilience slid alongside the marauder command ship. Sarah and her team suited up quickly, preparing for boarding. Explosive charges blew the hatch, and they surged inside. The marauder crew, caught off guard, scrambled to defend their ship. But they were no match for Sarah and her team, who moved with precision and purpose. They fought their way through the corridors, a relentless advance towards the bridge. As they breached the command center, the marauder leader, a towering figure clad in battle armor, turned to face them. His eyes widened in surprise and then narrowed in defiance. Sarah stepped forward, her weapon trained on him. "Surrender," she commanded, her voice echoing in the tense silence. "It's over." After a tense moment, the leader dropped his weapon, defeated. Sarah's team secured him and the bridge, effectively paralyzing the marauder forces. Outside, as the news of the capture spread, the remaining marauder ships began to surrender. The battle, fierce and furious, had turned decidedly in the Federation's favor. Back on the Resilience, General Exilon greeted Sarah and her team as heroes. "You've done it, Commander," he said, his usual reserve giving way to warm admiration. "You've led us to victory." The Federation arranged a grand ceremony to celebrate the end of the conflict. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered, a colorful spectacle of different species and cultures. Sarah and her team were honored guests, their courage and innovation celebrated. As the ceremony drew to a close, Sarah took the stage. The crowd fell silent, eager to hear from the hero of the war. "Today, we stand together, not as separate races, but as a united galaxy," Sarah began, her voice clear and strong. "This victory wasn't won by technology or firepower alone, but by our shared determination and creativity." She continued, "Let this be a new beginning for all of us, a future where we value and learn from each other's strengths, no matter how different we appear." The crowd erupted in applause, the sound of clapping hands and cheers filling the air. As Sarah looked out over the sea of faces, she felt a deep satisfaction. The galaxy was safe, and perhaps, more importantly, more united than ever. In the years that followed, Sarah's tactics and leadership became a cornerstone of the Galactic Federation's strategy. Her legacy was one of bravery, ingenuity, and the belief that together, diverse peoples could face any challenge. And in the quiet moments, when she looked up at the stars, Sarah knew they had not just won a war, they had won a chance for lasting peace.